This is not to get Christians down at all, but it's like, if we love Jesus as we say we love him with all our hearts, then why are many people lying about him? The way I look at it is like this. Would you lie on your parents about your parents to somebody? Would you lie when you talk to your friends? Would you talk to your friends about God and, say my parents this and that? That's what people sound like when they say God said this and they smack it in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? To say this is what God said when it says nothing like that. And that's what's bothering me about Christianity. Is like we take things and we use evidence on people that we have no idea if they even said anything like that. And if God tells you things, I have a question for the prophets, especially the Trinitarian prophets. If God is really telling you the same way you guys believe in the rapture dogma, this is not to blaspheme, God forgive me, but if you die in your rapture dogma, okay, then why are we still having to pay for bodies that are being cremated and buried if it's just your soul? That's one question. The second question for these people is, why do we have to say that when we're prophets that God said this and that, and we show people, but they don't get the clarity that you show them, and who's to say if they believe it or not, or if they don't believe it? And I'm sure you don't have to have belief for God to give somebody clarity, because I've been around unbelievers who felt the same way I felt when I shared the prophecy with them. But there's a lot of prophets out here that I don't know, they're very false, and it's not to put them down, but I pray and I study, and if the church is not teaching the way I was taught, they're not teaching God correctly. It's like almost you guys are smacking this in the Bible, and I know there's nothing like that in the Bible. We don't say that. We can't blame everything and say it's all God, because what if God has different plans, and what if he's using it as something else, or he's using it for his people? You know what I'm saying? I'm a Jew, so I'm fully 100% aware of this. And I know that a lot of Christians are lying about the prophets and the rapture dogma. We look at it as the tribulations. That's not the same as the rapture. Rapture means that, they treat things incorrectly, and it's very rare to find that in the Bible. But you can find tribulation in the Bible as revelations. And the tribulation has a lot to do with being persecuted. That's all that has to do with it. You could get sick, you can die, or something like that, and have to go with God to answer. But the way that you guys are teaching is rapture, like you're running away from a problem and your whole body disappears, and that's not true, because if that was truly true, then why do people still have to spend money on bodies that are dead, and it's really just your soul that disappears? Kind of funny, isn't it? So we could smack that in the Bible and say, you know what, God said this, when Jesus said nothing like that. You guys would really pray and study up, you would actually know what Jesus is actually saying if he's talking to you. And then second of all, when I read the Bible, from my knowledge of what I know, or the way I was brought up, was Jesus. When you read the Bible with Jesus, Jesus makes it clear that when he gives you a prophecy, he would tell you yourself if he wants you to know. And if a prophet does tell you something, Jesus already had told you that. So prophets that are telling people on and on and on and on about their prophecies is deceiving them, because he already told these people that. These people, they don't listen. That's because of rejecting the gospel. Now, it doesn't have to do with they were never told that, because they were told that. But if they would listen, they would know that. And another thing I wanted to share with you all is that there's that people who say, well, I'm not a believer. So another thing, when you dream about somebody, for prophets too, when you dream about people, that are a believer or unbeliever, and you claim you have this thing for them too, that's gonna happen, this prophecy, this propensity or whatever. But okay, so when you dream about them, why are you telling people that God is showing you about them, giving you signs over them, if they have no idea what you're talking about? Because if they really have an idea of what you're saying to them, they wouldn't be confused and they would have the same prophecy. The spirit's supposed to bear witness, right? So why are everyone's spirit is not bearing witness for what people are saying to them about prophecy? That's another question. See, because when the prophets did something in the Bible, they came true. And if they didn't come true, they were stoned because they got stoned because they were not hearing from the Lord if they didn't tell the truth. And if they were, then they were, they dealt with it differently. You were rebuked, you were kicked out of the place. There was all sorts of different ways that they've dealt with this. And we're not doing that today, because now I see people just, they'll tell somebody something and they'll be wrong about everything. And it's not to down the prophets, but if you really are telling the truth about what you say about things, then why is it not manifesting in people's life other than just faith? Because a lot of people can have faith, whether they believe it or not. Unbelievers have faith, but they don't have the kind of faith the churches are wanting them to have, where it's not manifesting. And then you got some people are and some people aren't. The only people I seem to see it manifesting on the most are the ones who are leaders. And people who walk in as members, they don't have no fruit in their life. And why that is. If we all believe in Jesus and we all coming for Jesus, then why are only the leaders being blessed and not the members? That's what I'm curious to know. See how that cult sounds? It kind of reminds me of a game. See, that's what Church Christian Honor reminds me of. It reminds me of the blood game, the Crips and blood games. Now, this gonna sound off. It's the thugs, you sign in, you kind of get in there, they get you in, they're happy, they give you stuff, and, next thing you know, you're in there getting shot and going through a lot of crap. And then when you go through all that stuff, you can't get out, and when you get out, it's very hard, because notice the blood game always has a member or a leader. It has a leader and a member. And this is not to get the government CCO church down, but we're kind of turning the churches into this. And then we get upset and say, you know what? So many people have a drug problem or a mental problem. Well, wonder why? Because we're doing stuff that's gain related, and we wonder why we have these crimes and all these crazy people. And if we learn to pray for people and take care and help one another, love as our neighbors ourselves, we wouldn't have such a people going to kill people and harm people, even themselves. But this is what I'm saying. Like, you guys are in the church, you don't know what you believe. You believe Jesus, and then it's like you smack it in his face. Like, I've seen people literally, they'll get married to the wrong person. Jesus said nothing about being with that person, but yeah, they're with them. But they smack it in the Bible in God's face, and that's not right, man, because if you love him, why would you do that? So that there's something suspicious and off around here going on, and we need to pray. We need to pray. We need to pray. We need to study. We need to pray. I said that like I don't even know how many times, to tell you the truth, but we all need Jesus, because if we don't have Jesus, this world's not going to make it. And I have a funny feeling America's the first going to be to fall, because America's doing so many things that we don't even care that we're doing it. We see it blatantly in our faces, and we just put it to the side. Oh, it's nothing, and it's normal, and we just make everything sound like it's good. And let me tell y'all something. What it looks good is not always good. So it's like we're not thinking about that because we're selfish to say, oh, it's nothing. We need to wake up. America needs to wake up, because I have a funny feeling we're not going to be awake by the time this happens. People say Jesus is going to come back. Well, if Jesus comes back, because they've said this for many years, it's not going to come back. He's not going to come back where people, first of all, their whole body's going to disappear. That's not how he's going to come back. He'll come back with his angels. Yeah, that stuff may be a little bit true. But the way that's the start off. But by the time that happens, everybody's going to be going crazy. And we're going to be dead. So it's a different persecution. It's a persecution with being hurt or something like that. It's not going to be a persecution where we just disappear our whole body out of the situation. We need to stop deceiving others and stop being deceived. I just wanted to let y'all know out there that this is the truth, and only that's going to set y'all free, especially in the Church of America. Now, I love you all, and I hope y'all stay prayed up, studied up, and you'll see everything I'm telling you. I'm not trying to confuse nobody. If you are that confused, then you need to pray, because if you're confused, then we know confusion's not from God. That's the author of the devil. The author of confusion is Satan. God's not the author of that. So if you're confused and can't understand anything I'm telling you, you probably haven't been studying, and you need to pray and study, because the devil only confuses people. Jesus doesn't confuse people. He gives people peace over stuff, and he teaches people that joy and that, how to learn, how to understand things. Even if you don't understand something, Jesus understands. And if you really know Jesus to everything I'm telling you guys, you will go to him and be like, Lord, is this true? Because he would understand all that stuff. So you're not confused. But if you're confused and you're confusing others, just like when a person lies and they lie to others, they're often going to be very confused by people who are not even trying to confuse them. We can't lie and say we're not deceiving others when we are. If you're not confused, you're not going to be lying to people and feel like you're being lied to if you really pray about it. Most people don't pray, so they oftentimes feel very confused. And let me tell y'all something that's dangerous, because it kind of reminds me of a person saying, I can't hear you, but they right next to you and you're talking with them and they're acting confused, like they can't hear you. They got good ears, they're right next to you. That's what it sounds like when you lie about confusion, when you don't pray. We think Jesus is on the telephone ignoring us, and he wouldn't do that to us. So if you pray, he'd actually hear you and understand everything you're saying. And I'm sure that if I went and I did that to somebody, then something would be wrong with me if I didn't hear you correctly, because we know Jesus is not the author of those things. He would explain it and give you that clarity if you pray. Maybe if you guys start praying and start studying, you won't have to feel confused and be confused. But you're going to be confused as long as you're not studied up and prayed up. Because it's just like somebody who's not deaf. They don't hear you, but they know they hear you, and you're right there talking to them. So they have no reason to say, I can't hear you. Because if they're not deaf, why are they acting deaf? They're confused, and that's why they're confused. And they need to be praying. If they started praying and started studying and understand people, they wouldn't have to act deaf and be confused. So that's what I'm saying to you all. But y'all stay blessed, faithful disciple, prayed up, studied up. God bless you. Jesus loves you. He's Lords of Lords. He's Kings of Kings. And he's would only give you that peace and that shalom with clarity. Y'all stay blessed.